So,
Oh, Warren McCann was there.
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Hi, Warren. Nice to see you, or I should say, nice to have you with us.
And there's more people. Sorry, Warren and Andrea, good morning. We were waiting to see people coming in to start the webinar, and we just noticed that we have to click start the webinar to let you in. So our apologies. We have been here for 10 minutes waiting, and I see that a lot of people is coming in.
Yeah.
So let's see if we will have. Yes, I think that we can start now. We have a few.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Good, Warren. Again, for everyone, our apologies. We have been waiting for you guys, and you have been waiting for us. We were supposed to click the started webinar key, and we didn't.
I figure it was some sophisticated technical problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, welcome everyone. Nice to have you here today in the webinar presented by Sia Kal. And we have interesting topics, but before we go to the topic, we usually like to start with a good news. So anybody has any good news to share today?
I have given access so that I think you should be able to join in at least with audio.
Yes, I see audios there. If nobody has a good news, I have a few good news. Well, this is Christmas month again, so that should be good enough as a good news. And for me, the shortest day of the year is the best day of the year because it's on Monday, and after that, everything starts getting bigger and larger and better. So I am very happy that it's almost over the shortest days of the year. So with no more to say, we will pass the microphone to Sia to start the webinar, and then we'll close in 1 hour. Sia, go ahead.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the introduction. Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar. It's going to be a quick one, and we will get through lots of good material that I think will help you in your practice management. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen, and off we go. If you guys are ready, we're going to take off. So fasten your seatbelts and be ready to have some fun, right? Okay. All right. So today's topic is balancing client care and scope of work. This has been a constant point of contention in many firms that I've had the pleasure and the honor of coaching over the years. Scope of work, as you guys are familiar, is just the parameters of the boundaries of what the work involves in terms of what you are doing for your clients. Client care, on the other hand, is more customer service related matters. How does the client feel working with you, and you are taking care of your client in a way that they actually see it and feel it. So how do you manage these two, especially during the pandemic? Those two particular areas have been challenged quite a bit. So why does this matter? And by the way, we're going to have some poll questions. So as we go through today's content, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to be able to vote. And for this one, you don't have to be a U.S. citizen to vote, because it's just, never mind. It's bad joke. Okay. So why does this matter? It matters because it impacts your utilization. And utilization is basically your billables, the billable hours you're able to do the work. It impacts your realization. That means how much of that billable work you're actually able to turn into cash for the firm. And then, of course, retention, being able to hold on to your clients for much longer than hopefully just a few years, right? So it helps your retention. It obviously impacts your revenue. There's a lot of out of scope work that you may not be getting paid for. So this is an opportunity to help you stop the leak in those areas. And profit, of course, the more opportunity you have to create or increase your revenue, the more opportunity you have for more profit. And ultimately, your joy. When I coach firms that have a good structure in place to manage their scope of work and their client care, they are generally happier because they know they're fulfilling their obligations under the relationship and engagement they have with the client. And at the same time, they are not losing opportunities to bring in new revenue and benefiting the firm. So it's a win-win situation. It's a win for the client, it's a win for the firm, and therefore the individuals that participate in those in that structure feel much more joyful in what they do. Now, there's going to be a section at the end of our webinar which we will open it up to any kind of questions you may have. So I encourage you to, in the chat box, if you like, you can go ahead and just write down any questions you have. And I'm not ignoring it. If you put it in there, I will address it when we come to the questions Q&A section at the end of our webinar. But these are the reasons why balancing client care and your scope of work matters. Utilization, realization, retention, revenue, profit, and joy. So question is, how do we balance between providing proper support for our clients while remaining in scope? Both of them are just as important. Very, very important. So in today's webinar, we are going to look at to have a better understanding of common causes of scope issues. We will address tools to help you catch out of scope work. If you don't catch it, you won't be able to manage it. So we'll talk about some tools that will help you with that. And then, of course, effective communication strategies to notify your clients. Now, if you're talking about clients that you've known for some time, there's a relationship there, and sometimes you may feel uncomfortable talking about something like out of scope work. So how do you handle that as we move forward? Now, the things I'm about to share with you today is what I have seen time and time again work really well with different firms. And I've worked with firms from all the way from Australia to UK to North America, like Canada, of course, United States. And so no matter where you're joining us from, I have seen these things that we're about to go through work really, really well. These are the things that we implement with those firms, any firms that I coach with. These are the things verbatim that I go through. I'm going through them right now. So hopefully you can take that back and implement them after this webinar. So when we are talking about scope management and client service, by the way, just to, when you are talking about scope management or client service, tell me if you've ever had this situation come up. You have one of your team members coming and saying, hey, there's some extra work involved with this client named John. And so I'm just bringing it up to your attention. So you look at it and you're like, well, let's take a look. What is it? Oh, yes, it is. There's a lot of, you're right. There's a lot of work involved. And this is out of scope. And I'm going to go and talk to the client now because this is not included in engagement. And as you're about to go and talk to the client, your team member stops you and says, wait. Hey, Warren or Andrea or Nelson, I got to tell you something. We've been doing that out of scope work for about 3 months now. Good luck talking to the client, right? Because now you've done the work without actually communicating it to the client. right? So now the conversation is about to get even more awkward because you've done the extra work and you haven't, you haven't brought it up to the client. And I just mentioned those names just to make an example. I'm not really saying that that's the case with you guys, but have you ever had that situation happen? Because that's a very common occurrence that happened in firms. So when it comes to scope management, client service, if you ask me, Sia, just tell me what I want something simple that can fix both of these issues as I go through managing the practice. Okay, I'll tell you, start with this. What are your standards? What are your standards? What are your standards for scope management? What are your standards for client service? If you don't have any standards, and standards, I don't mean like, good judgment. You have good judgment. My point here is written, documented, clear standards. What is the expectation of what people should do under scope management? What should people do with client service? Do you have standards? So let me ask the first poll of today, which is, how happy are you with your current scope management standards? How happy are you with them? A, I'm very satisfied. B, could improve it. Or C, need serious help. What are the three? So I'm going to open the poll right now. And let's go ahead and I
am Jose.
Yep.
Yes.
Jose, did you want to say something?
No, I have voted just now.
Okay, good. Thank you. Great.
I need a serious help, or even more than that.
Well, the great news is that you're not alone. Your colleagues here, and frankly, after helping thousands of firms improve their business performance, working one-on-one with at least 700 firms, this is a very common issue. So you're among the majority. The even better news is that there's help and there's ways, and frankly, it's happening right now. So what I'm about to give you will address and will seriously improve that area in your business. So whether if it's you, Jose, or anyone else here on the call, I think this is going to tremendously impact you. And so let's take a look at the results now. I'm going to end the poll and share the results with you. Here we go. So you have 43% mentioned I'm very satisfied, 43% could improve it, and 14% said need serious help. So for those of you that you're very satisfied, that's great, good for you. And those of you that could improve it, I'm hoping that you'll find things in here that will give you some additional ideas that will help the process. And frankly, don't be surprised. I've had people that said they feel very strong in terms of how they manage their scope of work and their client care, and then still come away from this material being able to take a few nuggets and apply them in their system. So I'm hoping that you will find this very helpful. So without any delay, let's get into scope management standards. So if you tell me, what are the scope management standards that we need to look at, I would say this. Foremost, I want you to be familiar with these two, which you are already familiar, but in practice management, we call them SWLT and DWLT when it comes to scope. So what these acronyms mean. The acronyms SWLT means Southwest Latin Time. No, teasing, of course not. It means same work, longer time. Same work, longer time. That means it's the same work that you propose to the client and you sign the engagement agreement with. You just realize that it's taking a lot longer than it needed to. So there isn't any surprise in terms of the scope of work. It's just the time it's taking is a little bit longer. And then you have the DWLT, which is basically different work, longer time. So that's referring to a work that is really different in terms of scope than what you originally started with. And of course, because of that, it does take longer time. So there's these two different areas that impact the scope management or scope of work. So the two forces that really navigate or impact your the changes in the scope are internal and external. There's internal forces, which is basically what's going on internally in your firm is impacting the scope. And sometimes it's external because the client is requesting things, the client is asking for additional help. And so the client is causing it versus you causing it internally. And so there's a internal force that impacts it, and there's an external one. The good news is that what we're about to go through today in terms of scope management, it's pretty much the same for internal and external. So the solution, even though the impact is coming from two different places, the solution applies to both of these. And you should be able to find it useful in your system. So I have, before I show this timeline for you so that you know how this evolves, depending on your practice management system, you could add what I'm about to show you in your workflow process so that some of it is automated, or frankly, you can just do these things, whether you have it in your practice management or not, it still works. And if there's any further inquiries or questions you have about how to implement this, of course, this is not just a one-off webinar and then we just say, good luck with it. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to provide further support as needed so that you can implement these and take advantage of them. So let's talk about how all this begins. You need to have clarity on these particular steps. If you have this, you have some standards for your scope management. First is the causes. I mentioned in terms of internal and external forces that impact your scope of work. Really, if it's internal, you're looking at lack of skills. Perhaps someone on the team doesn't have the skill set in order to properly do the work within a time frame or even do it at a particular level of quality. New finding, that means that it could be that your team member goes into the work and finds something new, such as, oh, we didn't know the client has purchased a new land, perhaps, to open up another location for their business. Okay, well, we need to appraise that land. We need to know what the value of that land is, and for compliance, for tax purposes. So that's additional work. So new findings are like that. Client request. Frankly, the client may call your team without talking to you and say, hey, would you mind doing me a favor? I have this and that going on, and I don't know what I need to do. Can you figure out and let me know? And so some of the causes could be from client requests. And basically, once you figure out what the cause is, you got to look at who are the decision makers in your firm in terms of deciding what to do with the out of scope work. Who is there to decide? And it could be the person that is doing the work. And that means if it's at a senior level, you have someone that is familiar with the way that the firm works. And generally, they're very familiar with the total engagement with that client. But if it's not that person, it certainly is someone that is superior, either their senior manager or it's the partner. Of course, if you yourself, you are the partner and you're doing the work, well, that is then you're the decision maker, right? But it's important for your team to know who is the one that is making a decision on matters of out of scope. Now, we haven't got into how do we make the decision for just a moment, but just who's the decision maker. So we need the cause, what is causing it, we need a decision maker. You're with me now, right? Okay. The third item is the path. So you have the decision maker that has to choose whether they're going to continue or stop. Continue meaning that the decision maker looks at the work that says, you know what? Yeah, it's a little out of the scope, but for the purposes of the long-term, the longevity of our relationship with the client, don't worry about it. We don't need to charge the client. Go ahead and do it. It's important that that contemplation happens. So if you say that, look, my team already does that, I don't even need to tell them because they'll just go and do it. You have to be careful that whether that's done because of the lack of standards, lack of structure, or is because there's actually a process where you've looked at the cause, the right decision maker has looked at it, and they've chosen to continue doing the work without addressing it with the client. So continue or stop. That's really the decision that needs to be made. Now, in terms of if you were to stop, you're talking about pricing. By the way, continuing could be that you also have a relationship with the client in such a way that in order not to delay the work, you can tell your team, continue doing the work. I'm going to contact the client and let them know, and they'll pay for it. I just know the client well enough to do that. But ultimately, what it comes down to is that if you are charging for that out of scope work, you need to make some decisions on whether you're charging it separately. That means it will be a separate engagement. Or is it going to be a part of the same engagement? You just increase the price. And whether the price is going to be upfront, are you going to give them a total dollar amount that they need to, or total amount, depending on what monetary unit you're using, which country you're joining in for this webinar. But is it upfront or is it hourly? And sometimes it could be a combination of both, right? So as far as the price is concerned, separately, you want to charge them, you want to just increase it within the same engagement, you want to do it upfront, or you want to do it hourly. This is the decision that needs to be made. Now, before I go to the fifth one, just so you know, I literally have the firms that we work with put this exact thing on a form, electronic form that it goes with the work orders. So when something is out of scope, there's actually record of it that all these things has happened. And so you literally see a check mark that goes through, and it's very rapid, very quick. And of course, it's documented in there. Now, once you've decided what the pricing is going to be, the communication is key. And of course, you have the traditional email, call, or both that takes place. So before I go to the rest of this, we're talking about look at step one, causes, step two, decision maker, step three, which path you choose, step four, what would be the pricing, step five, communicating to the client. All these things can happen very rapidly, very quickly, but each of them is very key, and it's very important that you have clarity that one, they've occurred, and two, what is happening in each of those steps. So let's go to the final two steps here. Step 6, document. It goes into, so once you've communicated with a client, either verbally over the phone or through email or in person or Zoom call, whatever it is, you need to document it, because you get busy, the firm gets busy, the client gets busy, you may forget what the agreement was. And as I always say, the written document is not there to hold anyone accountable. It's just there to remind parties of what they agreed to. So it's important that it is in fact documented. So you will have proposals, and you're going to get client approval on it, and then you'll follow up with your work order. Proposal, client approval, and work order, so that the team knows, hey, the client gave a thumb up, they're okay with it, we can continue to do the work. So finally, it comes to the assignment. As I mentioned, you either give it back to the same person that was working on it, or you may have to choose a different person or persons to do the rest of the work. 7 steps. 7 steps. We just went through them. Some helpful hints. If you say, Sia, I got this, tell me 2, 3 things that I can focus on so that I can properly do these 7 things. Here are the hints. Dedicated communication channel. Example, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Skype, etc., etc. It's important that you have a dedicated communication channel. So, and when I say that, I'm talking about specifically for out-of-scope work issues. So as this year, we all have grown more accustomed to working remotely. But even if you are in an area, in a part of the world that you showing up to the office, everyone is at the office, it's still important that there is a dedicated communication channel. So no one has to actually walk from one office to the other just to have a conversation about an out-of-scope work. However, I've seen firms that do really well in this area. And the way they do it is that they have Microsoft Teams and there's out-of-scope channel. And you have anyone that comes into a question with that, they go through these steps by starting there. So they know, so things can happen a lot quicker. You can use, of course, Slack, Skype, whatever mode of communication you already have in your firm, in your system. You just open a channel specifically for out-of-scope work. You may have that. If you do, you're ahead of the game. And then you want to have some protocols for the communication that happens on that dedicated channel. So basically, some basic things such as how do you post it and how to notify clients. So on that channel, you would put, okay, what's the cause? So the 7 items that I've given you here, that's step 1, which was, what was the cause? Is it the lack of skill set? Is it new information, or is it client request? So that the communication becomes less narrative on that channel, it becomes more punchy. So you can quickly look at it and say, oh, it's a client request. All right, what is it? And then you have the description of the job that it is. And that way you know what to do with it from there. And then how to notify clients is basically a skill set that I will highly recommend that you teach to your admin work, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to have your fee earners constantly going in these conversations. Now, if there's a need to explain the technicality to a point where it requires a billable person, a fee earner to talk to the client, so be it. But if it's not required to go that deep in it, then have an admin person do it, because it will help not add an extra burden on you. So what are some of the communication things you can tell your admin to do is by giving them a script of here's how we handle it when we have out of scope. You contact the client. This is, first of all, the template of the email. Then you follow up with a phone call, or you do vice versa. You make a phone call and you follow up with the email, but you let the client know, hello, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, this is whomever from your firm, and I just want to call and let you know that there's been some good progress on your work, or we've been really happy with the way things are progressing. We have come up with some work that was not originally in our agreement, which we need to address, and I'm happy to do that. I just want to send you a follow-up email for you to look at it and then see if you have any questions, and make sure we get your blessing, your approval before we continue the rest of the work on that engagement. Okay, that sounds good. Send it over. Fantastic. And then, of course, the description of the out-of-scope work has already been given to the admin, so the admin can send it to them. And then if there's further need for the client to talk to you as a fee earner, then they can do that. But I want to tell you this, most of them will be able to go through this process without having to talk to you. And what determines how successful that is what you actually put in the email and what it is that your admin is discussing with your client. And of course, it depends on the size. So if you have an out of scope work that is an additional $50,000, no, you would be in the best position to do that, not your admin. So use your common sense, your judgment. These are maybe out of scope work that is not as large as a 50,000 or 80,000 or a million or a few millions in fees. Okay, so let me get into another switch gears here into client care standards. This is our second poll of the day. Question for you is, how happy are you with your current client care standards? Again, I'm very happy, could improve it, or need serious help. So I'm going to let's see, what did I do here? Let's see, scope of management. This is our previous one, and then let me go to the second poll. Here we go. Apologies for the delay. Okay, so how happy are you with your current client care standards? This is your customer service area. This is where you give that white glove service to your clients, where they really feel like they're being taken care of. You are proactive in approaching and communicating with them. You are responsive. When they send an email, you immediately send a response back. When they call, you call them back. You basically leave a good taste in their mouth. And so let's go ahead and get your vote here. And we'll go ahead and share with you what the results are. Let's give you another. Okay. All right. That's everybody. Well, I tell you what, 100% of you said that you could improve it. 100%. So good. Then let's take a look at what you can do to improve it, shall we? All right. Client service standards. Start with a smiley face. Why? Because it matters. Clients want to know you're happy. If you're not happy, they genuinely contribute that to the fact that either you don't know what you're doing, or you're not organized in your firm, or something's up anyway. And none of that could be good for the client. So it's important for us to put some structures in place to make sure that you're not coming across as not being happy with your own practice. So these are a few standards that I think is going to help you. Respond to emails within 3 hours. Now, if someone asks you a question that requires you to do research, requires you to call someone, to talk to someone, it's just not a quick response you can give. Still respond to them within 3 hours, even if you cannot get the answer within 3 hours. So what do I mean? Hey, got your email, Andrea, Nelson, Warren, thank you. I got your emails. I got your email, and I'm going to respond to you as soon as I get a hold of Armando, as an example. Okay. So they know that 1, you got the email. 2, you read it. 3, you responded and you're working on it. That helps your client service experience for your clients. That should be the standard for you as a partner and for your team members. So sometimes your receptionist, sometimes your admin gets an email they don't know the answer to. They have to talk to a fee earner. That's okay. They got to say, hey, and what you don't want to do, here's what happens. Excuse me. What you don't want to do is that you don't want the admin to forward that email to you or send you an email asking you the question. Meanwhile, you're out visiting a client. By the time you come back, you have something else that comes up and you need to address that. So by the time you get to actually responding to your admin, your receptionist about that question, 2 days has passed. And meanwhile, the client is waiting. So what you want to do is that you want to teach your admin, your receptionist, that if you get an email, you respond like, thank you, I received your email, I'm going to discuss it with so-and-so and get back with you. So that the client knows, once again, the email was received, it was read, it's being handled. So if it takes a day or two, that they don't feel like they're being ignored. Very important. Number two, I started this with a smiley face. Why? Because clients want to know you're happy with your practice. Now, you heard the term that people can tell when you're smiling over the phone. Even if it's a phone call, they can tell if you're smiling. Also, what about emails? How can someone know you are smiling through your email? How does someone know? Well, what we're talking about is adding a little spunk, a little bit of your personality in the email. Doesn't matter how serious it is. Hey, I hope you're doing well. You have some great plans for Christmas. I just wanted to ask you a question, or here's the answer to your question. Add a little bit of your personality in there. Your clients are not animals. They're not UFOs. They're not plants either. They're human beings. They have feelings just like you do. And one of the biggest issues, the biggest problems we have in business is that we try to leave the feelings out of it. And because for some reason we think that it's either this or that, when in fact could be both. So it's important to add a little bit of your personality in the email. That's how they know you're in fact, figuratively speaking, smiling. If you're in person, don't forget to smile. If it's a virtual meeting like this Zoom meeting, don't forget to smile. Sometimes I'm reminded when I'm recording a video for whatever we're doing that I need to smile. I got people behind the camera and they just kind of do one of these things because I get so intense and passionate about what I'm talking about. And I stop smiling and all you see is this face that is just, so tense. And they're like, Sia, just calm down and smile. Be a little pleasant. So, of course, we're not going to go into different meetings with a mirror in front of us, but always ask yourself, am I smiling to the client? So that's very key. That's quite important. Proactive reach. Now, what am I talking about here? You need to proactively reach to your clients. That means that don't wait for them to call you with a question, with a comment, with anything. It should be a type of communication that is elicited by you without client reaching out to you. And you want to have that at least 3 times annually. One by the manager, by someone who manages a relationship, and 2 of them could be from your client service coordinator. That's your admin person. A client service coordinator role is very key. If you don't have that role in your firm, I encourage you to reach out to me. I'll tell you about the role. It's not just an admin role. It's someone who actually handles client relationships in regards to admin related things. You may actually have a client service coordinator that you don't label that, but you label them admin or whatever. The title doesn't matter, but there's a very specific set of responsibilities for a client service coordinator. But essentially that's your admin, and they reach out to the client to make sure that either they update the client that, hey, things are going well, whatever the updates may be, or that just checking in. Hey, I'm checking in. How are things? Right? And it's very important. I have seen firms that do very, very well in terms of revenue and profitability, and especially retention. They religiously do the items that you see here, and there's more of them. So pay very close attention. Responding to life occasions, birthdays, funerals, new baby in the family, something happens, sickness, travel. Respond to your client's life occasions. Once again, They're not animals. They're not UFOs. They're not plants. They're human beings. They have lives outside of work. Respond to them. That's how you build a relationship, right? So proactively doing that, it's going to help your client service standards. And the client feels like, oh, I'm not just a number. I'm not just a client you're making money off. You're actually you're genuinely interested in my life. And by the way, I'm not telling you to manufacture these things. If you truly care about your clients, you would be happy to do these things. These 4 steps would actually would give you, these are the tools that will help you do what you really want to do for your clients. But if the adverse of that is in the place where you don't really care, you don't want to deal with the client, then I recommend that perhaps, succession is coming a lot sooner than you think. And maybe it's time to go and do something that you actually enjoy more. Number 5, understand your client goals. I can't tell you how many times I talked to partners and I said, do you know the goals of every business client you have? The short answer is no. Most people don't. So it's important to know your client's goals. That's not telling them about your services. It's not telling them anything. It's more about listening than talking to them. It's about asking them, hey, what are your goals for your business? Why is that important? Well, because if you really care for them, you need to know what goals they are and what you can actually do to help them reach their goals. And was there a question, Warren? Okay. Moving forward, number 6, do what you say you will do. Do what you say you will. You may think like, Sia, come on, we're all adults here. And gosh, I learned that when I was 3. Do we really need to? Why is it here? Well, I didn't put it here because I wanted to put it here. It's there because that is what is lacking in a lot of the firms. Either don't tell a client you're going to do something, or if you tell them you're going to do something, then do it. Let your yeses be yes, and let your no's be no's. But definitely don't be a yes person or don't be a no person. Say yes when you can do something, and it's okay to say no when you're not able, either because of lack of time or ability. But whatever you do, do what you say you will do. If you say, hey, I'll call you on Thursday, don't wait till Friday. Call them back on Thursday. If you say, I'm going to research this and get back to you, research it, get back to them. Follow up. Do what you say you will do. And finally, annual surveys. This is the most important aspect. Why? Because you need to hear it from the client. I'm sorry, this may bruise your ego. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the client thinks. So you want to get feedback from the client. So there's surveys that you can send to the client to see how you're doing, how your team is doing. For one, you're sending a message to the team. Look, this is so important to us that we reach out to the clients. We ask them for feedback. Are we doing a good job? How is our client service? Do you feel like you're being taken care of? Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, I don't want to poke the bear, because some of them, Sia, I know I have been ignoring. That's okay. But if you do this, it forces you to address those issues. It will force you to take your head out of the sand and start addressing the problem areas with some of those clients. But taking a survey, I've seen this time and time again, trust me on this. When the client receives the survey, even if they're not happy with you, they think, wow, they actually care to fix the circumstance, to fix the situation. They don't presume they're perfect and they got it together. They actually want my feedback. So they're interested in improving the situation. Let me give them the feedback. And that's a good place to start, okay? Going through our last poll of the day, how much do you think your client care, what we just went through, impacts your scope management? How much your client care impacts your scope management? The 2 areas we talked about. how much one is impacting the other? Not at all, maybe a little, or how about very much? Let's go ahead and open the polls and let's see what your response is as to this. Let's go ahead and get your votes, please. I'm going to give you a few more seconds. Okay, just need a few more people that need to vote. I don't think I have everyone voted. Just let's go ahead and we want to make sure we have a good feedback from everybody. Okay. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we will end the poll now. Okay. So what do we have here? We have 63% mentioned very much. And 38% said maybe a little. And then no one said not at all. Well, it's good to be among very smart people. And that is precisely it. It does impact, they do impact each other. I think you knew that, but how much is indeed a lot. So let me just share with you this. Scope management and client service, they are attached to each other. When you do a proper scope management, you're actually enhancing the ability to service the client better because you don't resent the client. You think you can just put on a smile and cover, if you're doing a lot of work, you're not making enough money out of it, you start to resent that client and you start not to respond as quickly to that client or reach out to that client. Because in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I'm doing so much work for them and we're not even charging them what we should. They should just settle and just be there. When in fact, there's a lot more opportunity to grow that relationship. And so proper scope management allows you to do that. And from growing your relationship, you actually can grow the engagement. Client service can impact scope management because, frankly, if you're proactive and if you're in constant communication with your client, when something comes up and it's out of scope, it's not out of the ordinary to reach out to the client and say, hey, we got this thing that has come up and we need to put it on a different proposal, a different engagement. It's separate. It's not an odd conversation. But if you never reach out to the client, and by the way, asking for documents, that doesn't count as reaching out to the client. Oh, we talk to our clients all the time. Well, what about? Well, we need documents. Okay, so you need something every time you call, right? That doesn't count. I'm talking about, hey, what's going on? By the way, I just heard, your son just got married. Congratulations. How are things in business? This is the communication I'm talking about. If you're in constant communication, proactive communication with the client, and you go out of scope, it's an easy conversation. But if you never do that, then all of a sudden you want to talk to the client. Why? Because there is something out of scope you need to charge separate for. How do you think that looks for the client? The client may think, well, gosh, the only time they really care to call me is when they want more money. And I know a lot of partners know that, so they don't reach out to the client because they know they haven't contacted the client. They don't feel comfortable calling after 8 months saying, hey, you need to pay more. So the out of scope work gets done without actually properly charging for it. And who suffers? The firm suffers from that. So client service impacts client scope management and vice versa. Why does this matter? Let me remind you, because it impacts your utilization, realization, retention, revenue, profit, and ultimately your joy. Question for you guys: is your firm ready for 2021? Is your firm ready for 2021? What do I mean? I mean your client standards, your out of scope standards. Do you have a plan for your profit, for your revenue, for your capacity? Capacity meaning your available time to be able to do the work that you picked up. Do you have a plan for that? Well, the good news is that you can have a plan for that. And if you're interested in getting help there, I put this in a gift box because it's the holiday season and goodness. Here's one you don't have to disinfect. Okay. 2021 customized planning strategy session. I can spend that time with you. And what happens during that time, if you need help in that area, or you want to enhance your 2021 plan, is that we can look at the previous 12 months. We can look at your current revenue, capacity, and profit. And then we can look at, you can set some goals for 2021. And by the way, look at some benchmarks, meaning that what are other firms doing? So you can kind of see where you are in the big picture in your industry. And then we can finalize everything with what specific actions you need to focus on to achieve results. That would be right before you go into 2021, right? So if you are in fact interested to go through this session with me, feel free to just put in 2021 in the chat box, and I'll make sure that we reach out to you. We schedule a time so we can spend that time going over that and provide that to you as, of course, just a humble gift from our behalf to you. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and let's get into questions. I'm going to see if I can unmute as many people as I can and allow people to talk. Let's see. Okay. All righty. Okay. Any questions? Let me look at my.
Hi, Sia.
Hi, Edward.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Okay, fine. Sia, when do you respond one customer and unhappy or split the hike? What is my answer in this moment?
I'm sorry. Did you write this question in a chat or?
Edward, you want to say it in Spanish and I can translate for you?
Yeah.
Sí,
perfect, Jim. Thanks.
Sí, Eduardo, sí. ¿Cómo estás? Buen día.
¿Cómo está, Jim?
Muy bien, muy bien.
Intenté en inglés.
Sí, no, si quieres continúa, dije para hacerlo, facilitarlo, ¿no? Pero si quieres continúa en inglés.
No, tranquilo, mejor en español para hacerme más entendible. Digamos que existen momentos con los clientes y en qué momento uno responde cuando los clientes están, digamos, descontentos o con los ánimos, digamos, altos. ¿Cómo es el tratamiento con ellos?
La pregunta es cómo saber si están contentos o no, o cómo arreglar la situación.
¿Cómo arreglarla? Más por ese lado.
Okay. Sia, Edward from MNC in Colombia has a question dealing with how to fix the relationship once we recognize that the client is not very happy, either because of the survey or because we have detected somewhere else. What is the best approach to fix the relationships?
Yeah, very, very good question. ¿Por qué, Edward? No, just kidding. I don't know any. I try to say a paragraph in Spanish to all the FY international community some months ago, and I think I butchered it. So I decided not to attempt at speaking in Spanish. Although I'm going to get some training from Sergio perhaps and get better. Great question, Edward. The first thing to do is, first of all, proactively, meaning that don't wait for the client. You reach out to the client, ideally in person. Now, I understand we're in a pandemic and that may not be safe, but a Zoom call could be just as fine. It's important. It's better for them to see your face and you see theirs. And what I would discuss in that communication is a complete and 100% honesty. And what I mean is that let's not pretend things are great. Let's not play an act that, oh, you know, we just want to see how things are going. No, it's to really come clean with the client. Say, we feel that we have not done good enough job for you. We know we can do better. And we want to change that. We want to change the circumstances and start doing more for you and make sure you're being taken care of. And it's important for us to do that by getting your feedback and allowing us to talk with you so we know how we can improve your experience with us. So, you know, we extend our apology and we extend our hand so that we could work together to make your experience more enjoyable. So let's talk details if that's okay, right? Okay, that's fine. All right, that's okay. Why don't you tell us what is working, what is not working? I know that there's certain areas that we could do better, but I want to hear it from you. Now, they may be very, very unnerving and maybe make you feel uncomfortable to go through to that client and open yourself up. But, you know, clients are not stupid. Let me repeat it again. Clients are not stupid. If you think it's not going well, they know it's not going well. So what's the use of pretending that it's going well when both of you know? And it will just make the communication very disingenuous. It will make it very extremely fake to do anything else other than just tell the truth. Hey, we could have done better. We haven't. And so I want to address it. I want to come and address it proactively. And, you know, I highly recommend you just being you, Edward. Just be yourself. Imagine if it's a friend you're talking to and that friend is not happy with you, what would you tell them? But I would do it in person if I can. If not, I would do it face to face so they can see your face and be honest. You'll be surprised how people respond well to your honesty rather than being, you know, politically, let's not point fingers at the firm, but let me see if I can somehow smooth it out. That doesn't work because it may work in that conversation. They may still not say anything and say, okay, well, thank you, and move on. But you're going to have the same issue still be there even after that conversation. So if you're brutally honest, you take responsibility, that's the best place to go. Okay, any other questions, Edward? Did that make sense, Edward? Do you, Jim, want to do a little bit of a translation?
Eduardo, ¿queda alguna segunda pregunta o quedó respondida tu pregunta?
It's okay. Perfect.
Muy bien, muy bien.
Okay.
I will try to answer in English and you in Spanish.
Good. Anyone else have any other questions for Sia today before we close today?
Hello, I'm Jose.
Hi, Jose.
Yes. Hello, is it Jose?
Jose
Yeah,
Brel from Spain.
Jose. Good morning, Jose.
Our problem is the following one. We have from many years we have times who pays us a fixed amount every month, and that clients believe that this amount is for all kind of services. So then we have a lot of problems in order to fix which is out of scope. Can you give me an advice to change that situation?
Can I ask you a question, Jose, about your engagement? Do you have something signed with the client that describes what you do in exchange for that monthly?
Unfortunately, no. That clients became from an area Dutch from at a business and we don't have this document. So that is so difficult to us to do this.
Okay.
How can you advise to implement something to avoid this?
Yes, yes. So what I would say is that you need to start clarifying what is included in that. And is that, by the way, is that a common practice in your?
Yeah, if I can jump in on this,
Yeah.
Sia, I have noticed that this is a common practice in many countries.
Yeah.
That they do some, in Spanish they call it iguala, that they try to
we call it iguala.
Yes, so the same there, right? So everybody, they say, well, what is the work is for the whole year? And they divide it in payments for throughout the year for 12 or 13 payments.
Sure.
And the client expects that everything will be all inclusive there. And, and that's the problem, that hasn't been clearly defined, or the relationship have been going for years and suddenly slowly have been building up with other things that had not been adjusted to the original price that was agreed.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Jim. I think, look, that begins with what is your starting point? And your starting point is anything that you have documented, if you have written. If it's in a conversation, doesn't count, because it was a year ago you talked about it. It was 7 months ago you talked about it. And so what are you going to do? You're going to go back and say, oh, we said that we're going to do these things, but not these things. And then he's going to remember, no, I remember you saying that it's going to cover it. So it's going to be a back and forth. So to fix that, I think a good place to start is to actually list what is included and let the client know that, hey, by the way, we're documenting what is included in each services to make sure that our files are up to date. And here's a note about what is included in your service. Okay. You're not asking for more money. You're not doing anything. You're just letting them know this is what's included in your service based on this amount, right? And you let the client know that that is our starting point. Then separate from that, then you can reach out to the client and say, okay, we notice that beyond these things that we listed here, we've been also doing these other things, which is great, which means that your business is growing or you have more needs. And we want to make sure that we are addressing all your needs. But those are in addition to what we have as your starting point. And so for those, we're happy to continue to do it. We will send you another piece of document that will add that to it. Would you like us to add the original agreement? Now, I know it's not a contract. I get it. It could be just an email that lists it. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't need their signature. It's just a list of things that you've sent to them. And then if they say, yeah, okay, please, great. Then you add it in there, you give a new pricing, and you let them have it and see what they say. The fact of the matter is this. You're going to run into some clients that may say, well, no, they may give you some pushback, whatever it is. You got to be able to call out the client on that. So what do I mean? What I mean is that you got to say, look, I think you want us to get paid for all the work we're doing, right? Because I think that's what you want, right? Yes. Okay, great. Then this is the additional work that if you don't pay us, we're doing it for free. It really is for free because we're charging other clients for this, right? And so if it comes to that, just be honest. Just be honest with the client. The thing is that if there's a lot of hesitation with all partners, and this is very common, Jose, they are worried about what the client thinks. What are they going to say? What are they going to do? And they have this walking on eggshell. What is that? Is there a thing in Spanish, Jim, that
que está caminando sobre huevos.
Sí.
Sobre huevos.
Yeah.
Sia?
Yeah. Yes, Brennan.
Can I add something to that? Look, I have experiences where I deal with clients where they're paying me a monthly fee. You know, you said something with regards to the honesty and communicating with clients, which I totally agree. That's the way to go. But at the same time, I say this very humbly. we all need to be educated. Sometimes we need to educate our clients, you know, with respect. Never underestimate the intelligence of your clients.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we also need to be educated by the clients.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we also has to be open to be educated by the clients. Now, with regards to what we're discussing right now,
Mm-hmm.
when you charging a flat fee, you have to make the difference between the routine work that you're performing for the client, and you have to make differentiate what is extraordinary work. Extraordinary work is no part of that regular fees that you charge on the routine work.
Mm-hmm.
So that needs to be specified right from the beginning, that this is the scope of these fees will be, these are the services that we'll be providing you. But if it's anything extraordinary, that has to be addressed.
Yes, Renan. I think that's very on point, because what you initially stated in terms of we need to get educated ourselves, and we need to educate the client. And sometimes we haven't done a good enough job explaining the value of the work we're providing. And so that basically highlights there's room for improvement of actually speaking what you do. Because once you explain the value of your work, then you'll know whether the client values your work or not. But
Exactly.
But you don't know if they value your work if you haven't properly demonstrated what is the work that you actually do. So 100%. Thanks for that comment, Renan. Agree.
Well,
Jim?
if I can jump in, I believe this is a great topic that you guys have bring in. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. I believe that this is the perfect time to do that discussion with the clients, because it's December and all the new year starts. So it's the perfect time to bring the topic up. And we want to thank very much Sia for, again, another great presentation, very inspirational, Sia. And we love your visual aids that you put, because are always very proper and very accurate in regarding to the topic. And I love that last picture, the present that you gave us for Christmas. And I think that it's good that we take advantage of that. So to remind you, Sia is always available to answer questions if you have, but in addition, now he has presented us with a present that we have to take advantage of. And thank you again. If there is nothing else, we want to wish you Merry Christmas for you and your families, and we will see you again on the third Thursday of the month in January, like we do all the time. Anything else that you want to add, Sia?
No, just happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone. May God bless you and keep you, for yourself, for your team, and for your family. Looking forward to seeing you. If you reach out to me before the end of the year, otherwise I'll be seeing you in 2021.
Good. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, see you later.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye, everybody.